Hey there, my stealthy shadow warriors and shuriken slingers. Today we're slicing into the pixelated past of one of the most controller-throwingly difficult games of the 8-bit era, Ninja Gaiden. So stay tuned till the end because we're going to delve deep into the secret scrolls and discover something that even the most die-hard fans might not know about this game's finale. But before we ninja run into those details, let's rewind back to where it all began. And trust me, it's just not another tale of a sword-swinging ninja. In the mid-1980s, Tecmo, then known primarily for arcade games, decided to venture into the burgeoning home console market, a strategic shift inspired by the exploding popularity of the Nintendo Entertainment System. The idea for Ninja Gaiden started with a simple premise: to create a game that combined the fast-paced action of an arcade title with the depth and storytelling of a cinematic experience. The man behind the vision was Hideo Yoshiwaza. Originally tasked with developing a game that could compete with Capcom's Ghosts 'n Goblins, Yoshiwaza decided instead to focus on creating a character-driven narrative, which was a rarity in games of that era. The narrative was created around Ryu Hayabusa, a ninja who travels to America to avenge his murdered father. The choice of a ninja as the protagonist was influenced heavily by the global ninja craze of the 1980s, spurred by movies and pop culture. The development of Ninja Gaiden was marked by innovation and a few significant challenges. One of the key innovations was the introduction of cinema scenes, or cutscenes. These narrative sequences were designed to develop the game's story between levels, a concept that was virtually unheard of at the time in action games. The team at Tecmo had to develop new programming techniques to handle these sequences, pushing the NES hardware to its limits. Yoshiwaza and his team wanted Ninja Gaiden to stand out in terms of gameplay as well. They implemented a variety of weapons and power-ups, a complex level design, and a precise control system to complement the intense action sequences. The game's high difficulty became a defining characteristic, intended to provide a challenge that would keep players coming back. Interestingly, the American version of Ninja Gaiden included changes from the original Japanese release, such as altered cutscenes and increased difficulty. These changes were made to cater to the American audience, who were perceived by Tecmo to prefer more challenging games, a decision that sparked some controversy among gamers who found the difficulty sometimes unforgiving. Now let's zoom in on our hero, Ryu Hayabusa, a name that has become synonymous with both supreme ninja skills and crushing game difficulty. Ryu wasn't just another pixelated character. He was a revolutionary figure in how video games could tell a story. The developers crafted Ryu's character to carry the emotional weight and narrative complexity usually reserved for film, making players not just fight as Ryu, but truly feel his quest for vengeance and justice. The plot of Ninja Gaiden begins with Ryu discovering a letter from his father, who has been killed in a duel. This letter leads him to America, setting off a chain of events that involve secret CIA missions, ancient artifacts, and demons awakening from their slumber. This wasn't just another beat-em-up, this was a cinematic journey. Each level introduced new characters, both allies like Irene Liu, a CIA agent who initially appears as a foe, and villains, including the formidable Jakuyo, who plans to use an ancient demon statue to unleash chaos. The supporting cast was designed to enrich the story, providing depth and twists typically seen in movies at the time. For instance, the dynamic between Ryu and Irene evolved through the game, adding a layer of personal stakes to the overarching narrative. Each character was carefully woven into the plot, with their motives and backstories influencing the gameplay and leading to different narrative arcs. Enemies and bosses were another highlight, with designs inspired by both supernatural folklore and the exaggerated villains seen in the 1980 cinema. The game's level bosses were not just obstacles, but were narrative pieces themselves, each guarding a piece of the story that would help Ryu on his journey. This approach to character-driven storytelling was downright awesome, as each victory felt like a step closer to unraveling a deep, interconnected story. Now let's switch gears and tackle the razor-sharp mechanics that make Ninja Gaiden a standout title in the Gaming Hall of Fame. This isn't just about slashing and dashing, it's about how every leap, every wall climb, and every enemy strike was meticulously crafted to push the limit of what the platformer could be. First off, Ninja Gaiden introduced a control scheme that was both intuitive and demanding, requiring precision that could turn casual gamers into seasoned shinobi with enough practice. The ability for Ryu to cling to walls and execute jumping slashes was not just cool, it fundamentally changed how players could approach obstacles and enemies. This wall clinging mechanic wasn't just a neat trick, it was a survival tool in the dense jungles of pixelated enemies and treacherous landscapes. The game's level design deserves its own saga. Each stage was constructed to challenge players' mastery of these mechanics, with environments filled with enemies that could attack from any angle, traps that require split-second timing to evade, and platforming sections that tested even the most skilled players. The relentless difficulty of Ninja Gaiden is legendary, often cited as one of the most challenging games of its time. But it's this very challenge that has players coming back for more, determined to master its intricacies. Adding to the gameplay depth were the power-ups and secondary weapons. Like the throwing star or the Art of Fire Wheel, these weren't just flashy additions. They were crucial to the strategic dispatching of foes and vital for navigating the game's more punishing sections. Deciding when to use these limited resources added a layer of tactical depth that further enriched the gameplay experience. And while we're slicing through the details, if you've ever jumped at a game's challenge like Ryu jumps at evil ninja foes, why not leap at that like and subscribe button? It helps more than a well-timed power-up in a boss fight. Now, when Ninja Gaiden slashed its way onto the NES in 1989, it quickly carved out a niche for itself, not just as a game, but as a phenomenon that would leave lasting marks on both the industry and its audience. Initially, the sales figures told a story of success. Ninja Gaiden was not only popular in Japan, but also became a hit in the United States. Its challenging gameplay, combined with cinematic storytelling, resonated with a large audience, helping to cement its place as a classic. This success was further amplified with its release of 2 sequels on the NES, each building on the legacy and difficulty of the original, and expanding the saga of Ryu Hayabusa. Beyond mere numbers, Ninja Gaiden's influence stretched into how video games were made and perceived. It's one of the early pioneers in using cinematic cutscenes to tell a compelling story, setting a precedent that would become standard in video games across various genres. This storytelling technique enriched the gaming experience, offering players not just a challenge, but also a narrative depth that was rare at the time. Culturally, Ninja Gaiden tapped into the 80s ninja craze, popularizing the ninja motif further in video games. The character of Ryu Hayabusa became iconic, symbolizing the quintessential video game ninja. This popularity extended beyond the games themselves, with Ryu appearing in other media and games, including crossover titles and cameos in other series, solidifying his status as a cultural icon. But this game isn't just a test of skill and patience. It's also a treasure trove of intriguing tidbits and clever Easter eggs that enrich its legendary status. One of the most interesting aspects of Ninja Gaiden is its intricate use of background elements that were often unnoticed. For example, in several levels, if you pause and look closely, you can spot characters and objects that seem out of place in a fast-paced ninja game. These aren't just random design choices, they're deliberate inserts by the developers to add layers of detail and intrigue. If you can name any of these things, go ahead and put them in the comments to win the chance of being super awesome. Another hidden feature that many players may not know about is the sound test mode. By performing a specific series of actions on the title screen, players can unlock this mode, allowing them to listen to the game's soundtrack. This feature was not documented in the game's manual and became a cherished secret among gaming community, showcasing the developer's foresight in appreciating the importance of game music and sound effects. But here's a truly fiery tidbit. The final Bottle Bass has an alternative ending sequence that can be triggered under specific conditions, which was almost mythical until confirmed by die-hard fans who dissected the game's code. This alternative ending adds a twist to the story that few have experienced, making it a coveted piece of the game's lore. And there you have it, the saga of Ninja Gaiden, dissected with the precision of a well-thrown shuriken. From its cutting-edge gameplay to the secrets lurking behind every boss fight, we've ninja flipped through the whole arsenal. Remember, every game has its stories, but not every game makes you want to throw your controller out of the window with a smile. If you enjoyed this this deep dive into one of gaming's most thrilling classics, don't forget to like, subscribe, and maybe even ring that bell like you're summoning your own ancient dragon, just hopefully with fewer demonic consequences. And if Ninja Gaiden is one of your favorites in video game history, click this video here to see more from the Retro Reload. And as always, thank you for watching.